the WoW people were ready for there being no FF in the stream anymore. Unfortunately, Matt has a segment for you.
Yeah, so this segment is basically a thought I had, and I was kind of talking about it with a friend of mine yesterday as well, but because I was playing, I think I said a couple of weeks ago on stream, I was playing Final Fantasy 1 Remastered when it came out, and I was doing that to get a feel for like the the Final Fantasy stuff and what the references in 14 were calling back to. I found a lot of stuff that really made me kind of smile the entire time I was playing. It's like, oh, that's that character's name, that's where that comes from. Oh, that's where this custom comes from. And there's even some similar stuff in FF2, like a certain password the Scions use as a reference to,
neat.
As a reference to FF2, like one of the first things you see in the game, and then the idea of like the Empire that is so strong in every FF game, or many F games, not all of them. You can see that DNA start to sprout in FF2, and then I just thought, oh yeah, this is like a whole series, this is like a whole franchise, and then I thought about Dissidia, which is the arcade 3D fighting games, which they had 2 PSP releases, an arcade release, and then a PS4 port. And it was just a love letter to all these different characters that everyone knew from all the FF games. And they were really interesting, and some would say they were great, some would say they're not very good, but they're really interesting. Theatrhythm is a love letter to the music. Like, it's literally just, we've made 2 rhythm games and then one for arcade about the music of Final Fantasy, and it's fantastic. World of Final Fantasy is a Pokemon-like game that's just, here's all the Final Fantasy characters that you know and love, but in a game where you collect all of them, and they're like summoned in to like help this unique world and this unique character stuff. And I'm just thinking, okay, so there's like so many games. There's so many games, and you can go and play them all now, and everyone's really happy, and they have their own favorite Final Fantasy games, they're their favorite ones here and there, and they've got this like massive wealth of stuff to rely on. And then you look at a marginally bigger franchise by estimated gross revenue, which is what I have on the stream here, or like if you scroll up and then scroll back down, you'll see Final Fantasy, according to Wikipedia, is worth just shy of $12 billion in terms of estimated income, and these are relatively new figures. Warcraft's earned more money
in less time.
Insignificantly,
the big bucks are going to be more modern, of course.
But insignificantly less time, $13.4 billion. So that's completely like, Warcraft's bigger, but where are the games? Where are the games? There's 3 RTS games, there's World of Warcraft, 7 expansions, there's Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, and a Warcraft movie. Obviously there's a load of books, there's some comics and stuff like that as well, but it is just, where's all the other stuff?
Yeah, where is World of Warcraft, The Burning Crusade, X2, Fighters, to the power of 7 divided by 5?
Yeah, that's
Versus.
the thing. Yeah, because I mean, there are a load of FF games that are shit. There are tons of spin-offs that are garbage, just spat out for money making, especially the mobile stuff. I think the only one that anyone liked at all is the newer one, the Brave Exvius, and it's a gacha game.
Yeah.
But they failed earlier attempts at gacha and shit like that, and they've just pumped out a load of like awful ports, basically. But it's the idea of, where are the other games that people wanted to play? Like, and this isn't particularly making a judgment, because they've earned more money. So technically they're more successful. Technically Warcraft's more successful than Final Fantasy. As to whether that'll continue in the future, we'll have to see. But technically it's more successful. But as a fan, I don't feel like World of Warcraft, I don't feel like the Warcraft IP has been utilized enough for my taste.
I guess it's maybe what you're picking up on, and this is something that I think will be, you know what, people in the West who only play games from the West will probably not get this, and this is why I want to bring it up. Japanese games, or in Japan, when they strike gold in a franchise, they fucking milk it. They get everything they can. I can't wait until there's 7 million different Persona 5s that are all different games with different chronologies. Or you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they find a win, they're like, oh, okay, cool. So we're going to get a fighting game spin-off and a sort of action game spin-off and a this and a that and a that. Boom, 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 boom. So, like, if you're a fan of that, you're going to get a lot. Whereas maybe you're just kind of thinking, oh, what would it be like if that Japanese way of just doing that with franchises was applied to Warcraft? What would it be like if, say Warcraft Lord of the Clans ended up not being cancelled and there was a Warcraft 4, and maybe they did a Warcraft action game or a Warcraft this or a Warcraft that or just more, right? And maybe your thought there is that there probably would be hunger for that sort of thing from the community, and that perhaps this would be a win-win for both business and customer. I think that's
basically precisely. Where's the RTS games? Because they were making World of Warcraft and didn't make any RTS games around Warcraft. Like, obviously there's a lot of hindsight going on, but what the hell? Why could they not have made an RTS set, like, make it relatively small? Even just license it out. Well, I suppose they licensed before and it didn't work too well, so they pulled that back. So I guess there's kind of that element as well.
I wonder if that was it, because StarCraft Ghosts was not an in-house primarily, and maybe they got burned in that, because when we look at a lot of what's going on with Japan then, as you said, there is varying quality within the FF franchise when it comes to spin-offs, and a lot of that shit is outsourced to different, various different studios. It's not all in-house, far from it. I think then maybe for Blizzard, it's like, what would have happened if they were willing to give the keys of the kingdom to somebody else? But then you sort of think about a lot of what came to light in recent times. I don't know if there'd be the trust or things like that. And in a way, that's a valid sort of concern. But yeah, it is an interesting thought, because I hadn't thought about it too much, other than just kind of being like, oh, I wish there was more going on. I mean, but
like, where's the shipped version of StarCraft Ghost? Obviously, but like for Warcraft, where are the projects that actually could have been small scale, feasible, reasonable, and existed and were shipped instead of Titan? Like, imagine if instead of Titan, because obviously Overwatch did very, very well for them in the long term, but imagine if instead of Titan they went for, here's Project Mini Titan 1, Mini Titan 2, Mini Titan 3, and they just went, here's more scoped, reasonable stuff. Here's, here, like, why do we have no action game in the Warcraft universe? Why not? Obviously you go, well, action RPG is Diablo. But then you go, well, why is there not just something where you're swapping between, like, Uther and Arthas, slapping a couple of undead about, or your Thrall fighting a load of stuff? Just the kind of the fan servicey stuff, I think, is what I feel like completely missed out on. And I think some of that's from the business perspective of them just going, we're Blizzard, we have to do everything perfectly, and it just feels so. It feels like such a lost opportunity to me. And it's not even like I'm trying to make a big point about which approach is better or anything. It's literally just me thinking, man, imagine a universe where we had a Warcraft action game, we had a Warcraft RTS, we had like a Warcraft TRPG, where they went, that Advanced Wars shit looks cool. Can we do a Warcraft one of those? Something like that.
Like, somebody even just said Vermintide style Warcraft would be cool. You could totally see something like that working, going through some dungeons. I mean, hey, imagine if it was a Vermintide-like game set in the Warcraft universe, and it's like, in this content update for the game, the gang are going to Scarlet Monastery, and then you get to play Vermintide Scarlet Monastery. I mean, for a lot of people, that would be
huge,
big video game to play. So I think then it's probably just, and there is a Western IP that's doing this kind of thing in a way. Only difference is it doesn't have a in-house mainline games division, but I think it can illustrate the pros and the cons. Warhammer. Because those Warhammer games are of varying quality. But there's a lot of Warhammer games that are targeting little fantasies within, between fantasy, 40k. I don't know, there's probably Age of Sigmar stuff coming out. That's a big thing, and I guess Vermintide is one of the hits there. Within that, and it's very interesting that Games Workshop were willing to knowingly take a quality hit in order to build the brand out in that way. And I think for Blizzard, there are elements of like perfectionism and stuff that are very much there at the start. It'll be done when it's done, and that's the stuff we really used to love about Blizzard. But everything's got its pros and its cons. And I think we can see those pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'd definitely say, yeah, if their goal was to maximally exploit the Warcraft franchise, it's like we can readily all see the negatives of that.
Yeah.
But if a positive for that was also that they were just releasing more and more and more Warcraft content and maybe licensing their brand out to other studios,
Yeah.
then it could be interesting. Now, that said, if you license your brand out, I mean, not every studio is even going to want to take that because of what those terms could be. And those terms might actually have to be quite good for it to be worth you licensing out your brand and taking on that risk. So for a group like Games Workshop, easy to do because they don't have in-house game development. So what's the loss? But if you're Blizzard, it's like, well, we want the Warcraft money. Why are we going to license it to you? And also, what if you fuck it up and we take a hit to our brand? So you can see all of that as well. It's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, there's definitely reasons to not do it, but I just find it sad, especially with what they did with Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah,
Because they were are really good examples of that working out. It's just the problem that I have with them is that they were, they weren't just, oh, what would the players really like? It was, what trend can we hop on? Can we hop on the Heroes of the Storm? We need the MOBA trend. We missed a trick with losing Dota, and then they made Heroes of the Storm. It's like if Heroes of the Storm had, similar gameplay mechanics, but was a 20-hour single-player game that had a box price, or didn't feel like it had the weight of all the expectation upon it of this needs to be our League of Legends or our Dota. Same with Hearthstone. Well, Hearthstone has been still successful. It had a couple of, it sometimes has periods of time where it's not been doing so well, but I think that's just, you can't score every single shot when you're making a live game, as we fucking know too well. But I feel like Hearthstone's an example of them doing it right. So it's just a shame they couldn't have done it with a little action adventure game or an RTS or a TRPG.
They have had job listings before. That mentioned action experience.
Yeah.
Like, how many cancelled Warcraft spin-off games are there? Probably more than we know.
Yeah. Where'd they go? Like, it's such a shame. It's such a shame.
Yeah, no, interesting. So there's maybe something to be learned there. I guess it's that thing in the modern day. It is so much. It's about building brand and franchise more than individual games.
Yeah,
I suppose. And for some people, there is success for that in the transmedia narrative stuff. Because look, if you listen to the WoW audiobooks on your drive home from work, you log in, you play some WoW. I mean, you're getting a lot of watch hours on brand and investment in that brand. I suppose in a way, the more of that, the merrier. Just let's not do it in the whole transmedia narrative thing. But then it's like, do they have the production capacity to do that? Are they willing to, assume that level of risk? Because you either do it in-house or you outsource it. And if you outsource it, there's pros and cons. So yeah, it's
the Warcraft franchise has pulled in nearly $14 billion according to Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is the best source.
Yeah, at
It's
least
a lot.
At least
we all know it's a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, those numbers I did check to make sure they're roughly in the realm of accurate before I just sort of parroted them, because we all know what Wikipedia is like. But it's just that idea of you had all the money, where'd it go?
Yeah, and you can see action games in the Warcraft universe that are awesome. You can see, like, somebody mentioned Vermintide, like that would be really, really, really cool. We obviously know that real-time strategy games in Warcraft are really, really, really cool. There's it's a great setting. It all just comes down to that. It spawned from this very, very, very simple place with what Warcraft 1 was, and then it just grew out, and it's not the most complex fictional. I mean, they're making it now, but it used to be that it was very simple, very accessible, a lot of core fantasies well presented. It's just a very natural place for content to be, the Warcraft universe. So, I mean, who knows? I would love a whole bunch of Warcraft content, and really any way we can get it.
Yep.
So, hopefully, but, I don't really think that's a thing that'll happen.
Nope.
Certainly, there's no Warcraft 4 on the horizon, I think.
Yeah, which I think is the greatest shame of all.